All right, top of the morning, top of the evening, top of the night, whatever time zone you are on, we are live. Excuse me, all 50 states are confirmed to have COVID-19. If you have not heard of any cases in your state, that's because the latest updates for your state have not been given. Once again, all 50 states have been confirmed to have COVID-19. I'm going to extend the title out because I need young people to know, millennials, you are not invincible. Millennials, again, you are not invincible. Let me cut this out in the background. I want to hear the extra. Hopefully, everybody has been in their state of preparedness. For those who are at home with their kids and don't know what to do, I taught for years, so I always have homework or a list of activities that can be done to remedy boredom. I told students and tell my own child I don't believe in kids just being bored. I can always find a plethora of things for you to do. With that being said, once again, this is not to be funny, it's not to be facetious. And hopefully everybody is doing what they need to do to protect their own immune system. I know many people are tired of hearing about COVID-19. I cannot stress this enough. The cases in the US have outpaced the cases that were in China. And so you could either be tired of hearing about it, which is fine, or you can do what you need to do to build up your immune system and take every precautionary measure to save you and your household from being impacted by this virus. And I will say it again, millennials and young people, you are not invincible, nor are you immune to this virus. Dear African American people, dear people rich in melatonin, you are not immune to this either. In spite of some who would dare stand out there and say that. That's a falsehood. The reason that's a falsehood, and I'm going to get to the music in a minute, is this. This virus is like it's an upper respiratory infection, right? Poses as such and poses as a flu too. Are we immune to getting the flu as people rich in color? No. Are we immune to upper respiratory infections as people rich in color? No. Therefore, we're not invincible either. Now, this is not to put anyone in fear. However, in 2020, we said we need to leave How dumb can you be behind? And in that, erroneous information, felonious information, fables, Maximus Fibulus, and all other allegories need to be left behind because millennials, children, African American people, we're not invincible. We're not invincible. Now, to the churchgoers, yeah, I believe in prayer and a lot of it. Pray without ceasing. You're not invincible either. And just because you pray does not mean you will not be subject to this virus. I'll say it again. Just because you pray does not mean you will not be subject to this virus. Weapons form, but they don't have to prosper, but they will form, right? And then having said that, to those who seem to gravitate to a little bit of the fanatical side, let me say this. Because people like to bypass certain scriptures and for their own benefit. or to support their biblical interpretation, or to support their interpretation of the Quran, or whatever it is you may adhere to. In Ecclesiastics, it says, why should you die before your time? Now, I know it's a bunch of people out there saying, well, people gonna die for something, but it says, why should you die before your time? Why should you die before your time? That makes no sense. Don't play Russian roulette with this COVID-19 virus. Do not play Russian roulette with this COVID-19 virus. Let's leave www.howdumbcanyoube behind in 2020 and make sure we're doing the things that we need to do to sustain our lives, to protect our families and the one and friends and those who are around us. You cannot, and for people who are attempting to go with what this administration is saying, you cannot sit up and listen to that foolishness they are saying, they have spun, and they continue to put out in the airwaves. You cannot, because many people are dead. Many people are continuing to die over here in the United States of America. Our cases have far outpaced China cases right now. We don't have the system in place that they had for preparedness. Oh, I heard what they said this weekend about this many cases, this many tests being available and that many tests being available, so on and so forth. But they were playing a game with the tests also at the Center of Disease Control. We showed that last week. Let me get to some music right here, right now. But before I deviate to the music, I have to do this share because in my state, we're past 50 confirmed COVID-19 viruses. And one of them includes a child. Okay. Now, keep in mind, as I'm posting this, numbers are continuing to go up as they constantly get data in. The thing about this virus is all the information is not being posted in real time. So by the time I'm saying this, cases are continuously increasing. And I will say it again, all 50 states have been confirmed to have some type of case of COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus. And sorry for the clicks in the background. And to the people in the chat and the people in the bushes, I'm not intentionally annoying anyone. Hello, how are you? But here we go. Michigan, my state. We only started off with 2 that was confirmed, less than about a week ago. Now we're up to 53 plus cases, including a child. Washington, Detroit, Macomb, Oakland, Kent County, Oakland, Wayne, Ottawa, Macomb, Wayne, Oakland. I'm gonna zoom back up. Macomb, Wayne, Oakland, Detroit, Kent. And I want to say that right here in Macomb, 2 adult males with no travel or contact reported. Male, no history of travel or contacts. They have it. Detroit, adult female with no history of travel or contacts. She got it. Oakland County, male child with contact with a person with COVID-19. The child has it. And a lot of these, in some of these counties in Michigan, people travel nowhere and they have no knowledge of having even been in contact with someone who had it and they're reported to having it. So like I mentioned earlier, let's not play Russian roulette with your family life, your life, friend's life, or anyone else's life. Let's not play a game of Russian roulette. We are not invincible. It's your immune system versus you being tired of hearing about COVID-19. And some people out there still are not prepared. Why should you die before your time and play a game of Russian roulette with your immune system in your life? Because that's what's at jeopardy. You. If you have a good immune system, a solid and healthy immune system, why would you want to compromise that? Now, with that being shared, let me get to the music. And then we'll go a little further. Okay. Once again, hello to everyone in the bushes. Hello to the people in the chat. This is your friendly but realistic update on COVID-19.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby,
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough.
to keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day I set you free. I told you you could always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. Oh, baby,
There ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough.
to keep me from getting to you, baby. Oh, no, darling.
No wind, no rain, or winter's cold can stop me, baby.
No, no, baby.
'Cause you are
If you're ever in
my
trouble, I'll be there on the double. Just send for me, oh, baby.
Hey, Lee.
love is alive down in my heart, although we are miles apart.
If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double, as fast as I can. And don't you know that there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough.
Keep me from getting to you, babe. Don't you know that there
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough.
Whoops, I didn't mean to have this.
We're here to change things. We can all do amazing things on our own, but together,
Okay, I didn't mean to show that commercial in the background. Hi, Lisa, how are you? All right, let me break this volume down. So let's get to this. As you know, protests have begun because some people are out saying the government needs to do more. And we have watched this administration completely get a Z minus to infinity when it comes to handling this COVID-19. And I would like to remind people the reason that it's called COVID-19 is because they knew about this virus in 2019 and did nothing to prepare for it. Now, the #1 doctor for infectious diseases have been up on Capitol Hill testifying, and he said they failed. They were not ready in terms of having hospitals together. They were not ready in terms of having tests. And the part that I want to go to right now, let me go here, is the test. See, because up on Capitol Hill, the part that I didn't focus on is the fact that they were playing a game with tests. Well, yes, I did. Debbie Wasserman Schultz went there when she talked about them being able to get tests. Okay. Some states have research hospitals who took it upon themselves to be a little bit more proactive and reactive at the same time and come up with their own testing when they could not get the test from the Center of Disease Control. And in this state, we have a research hospital, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, U of M Ann Arbor, and there, they were one of the hospitals that took it upon themselves to start creating some type of test. And I want to get to this and remind people, we are also in a voting season. Please, please, please vote absentee. Get your absentee ballot. Make sure you vote absentee. Do not let this prohibit you from vote. Get an absentee ballot, vote absentee. It's in moments like this that you find out who you voted on, whether or not they are competent, incompetent, whether or not they care about people or lack compassion, care, and concern for people. It's in moments like these that you find out what the person in charge is really made of. Oh, okay. $1,000 per household. Vote in Alabama, food stamp emergency. Yes. Yes. Now, and I want to say this to people, because during Hurricane Katrina, we've seen some things occur. And during Floodgate in New York or Jersey, or wherever it had, where was Floodgate at? Okay. With Big Boy. Okay, anyway, we've seen things happen to where people who are a working class or a lower working class or suburban and working class who may not have had to ever receive any type of food assistance, receive food assistance, be given food assistance from the government. And I want to remind people this: you pay into that regardless of whether you take advantage of it or not, or whether or not anyone in your household benefit from it. So there's no need to be ashamed or whatever, and just think it's just, oh, it's just for a group of lazy people. No, 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 no. You're paying into that investment program. They want to call it a social program. No, we invest our tax dollars into that. So to me, I'm going to say investment program and not just deem it as a social program. US tax dollars are being taken from paychecks on a mandate that money goes towards that. But let's get to this before we get to how China was able to handle it, before we get to other updates pertaining to this, I need people to realize that when the House was pressing the Center of Disease Control department heads last week, and some people may have thought they were being a little aggressive. No, they were not. The Center of Disease Control director set up and was playing a game. They had some people in there playing a game with other people's lives, and I don't think it's funny. I think it's extremely careless. And like the infectious disease doctor stated when he jumped in, if you go back and you watch all of it, when he jumped in, when the other doctor was talking, they just failed. The US failed in handling this. And the fact that we failed in handling this as a nation is the fact that the death toll continues to rise. And by the way, newsflash, unfortunately, over in Europe, they have over 5,000 people dead from COVID-19 now. It's over 5,000 people who are dead over in Europe from COVID-19 now. So for the people who, I have to go back to this, who think they're invincible, you're not. For the young generation of millennials who think you're invincible, you're not. For my people rich in melatonin, in which I am one, who think we're invincible, we're not. For the people who adhere to some great faith or some religion who think they're invincible, you're not. Now I could see the story that may seem cliche to some, where a man is on a boat and all his help is sent, and then he rejects all of the help that was sent while he was out there on the ocean on a boat. And he ends up drowning and dying, and then he gets to heaven, and he's like, well, Lord, how come you didn't help me? The Lord said, well, I sent this to help you, you didn't want it. I sent that to help you, you didn't want it. I sent this to help you, you didn't want it. Well, for the people who confess some faith, some type of faith or whatever, don't be foolish and just going out there thinking, okay, I don't need a mask, I don't need gloves, I don't need to be supporting my immune system. And then you get it. And let's say there's a probability, because there is a probability that you can die from it. And you die. And then you get to heaven or wherever, and you sitting up there asking, well, Lord, why did you allow me to die? And he's like, well, no, I sent warnings. I sent warnings, and I wanted you to be prepared, but you didn't adhere any wise counsel. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. You didn't adhere to no wise counsel, and now you're sitting up here before your time. Let's not be in that category. Once again, let's not play Russian roulette with our lives or our immune systems when it comes to this COVID-19. Okay, and I'm queuing the video up in the background to show the extent of the carelessness that has taken place with this administration as they continue to attempt to deflect off of any real responsibility and want to come out and say, like, you have it all together, we have it all together. No, you don't. No, we don't. Having it together would have been shutting us down as soon as the first two cases. Really, the first case, when people start showing up dead, how many more people got to die before you put everything on lockdown and really try to mitigate, control, get control, quarantine, start a mitigation process? And then once you have it under control, relieve the restrictions. I mean, what? And how swiftly do you move to put a plan of action in place, instead of coming out on the news media every day saying it's fake, it's a hoax. And then allegedly he's tested negative, number 45, for having COVID-19. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that one bit. I don't believe it one bit. I want to see that test for myself. I don't believe them, because they've set up and they lied for the last 4 years. Why would I take the word of a known pathological liar? Why would I believe anything that they say? Even if that in that one instance they're telling the truth, I'm still not going to believe it, because you have a history of lying. Every day, all day. Move the lips, they're lying. When they move their mouth, they're lying. Why would I take the word of a known liar? Why? Why would I let a known liar sit up and give me any type of counsel or advice? There's no wisdom in that. This is why we're leaving www.howdumbcanyoubebehind in 2020. And US senators, get up off your behind and pass the bill. And some other bills. It's people over here dying that sent you, unfortunately, to the White House or up to Washington, D.C., that are dead due to no fault of their own. Now, for the rest of us, let's take every measure we can. Game on. Let's go.
It is clear that there were decisions that were made centrally about what test to use and restrictions on who could do the test. That has been changed. And finally, other laboratories, including one at Stanford, have finally been authorized to develop and now deliver their own tests. So the original decisions to use a U.S.-specific test, not the one that was suggested by the WHO, which has been used in many, many other countries, in retrospect, obviously was a big mistake. And we had trouble manufacturing and distributing a valid test central at the CDC.
I mean, this is this is the critical issue, right? I mean, there was a test available. It was the World Health Organization test, the one that countries all over the world are using now. But the CDC made a decision not to accept that test. They made their own test, sent it out, and it was faulty.
That's right. So now we're having to depend on the many labs around the country and commercial laboratories to develop and offer this test. We are really just gearing up now for that. The Stanford test, which is the one that's being used regionally, also for a variety of medical institutions. I think they this week they were offering between 200 and 300 a day. They say that next week they'll be up to about 1,000 a day. That obviously is not remotely enough to track where the epidemic is going. But that's what we have right now. Regionally, nationally, I don't know what the capacity is. But as Dr. Fauci said, we are.
For the director of the Center of Disease Control, that doctor who just kind of said, okay, let me answer it. He just cut him off and say, let me say it. We're not prepared. We failed in this area. Okay, I didn't need it up here twice. Excuse me for the loud clicks in the background too. commercial playing in the background. I gotta stop that. And it's breaking news right now. Number 45 is speaking, but I don't want to hear anything he has to say. I'm gonna just say it like it is. I'm not gonna listen to that. And in the other video, I said the stock market dropped 10 points, and I meant to say 10%. So we'll see where is that today. And due to all the businesses and other corporations closing, we know that's going to impact the US economy. Feds have interest rates at 0% right now. And watching a little bit of the market today earlier, the way things were trending, they were saying it still was not appeasing anything. But now that we know that the Center of Disease Control had a test that they should have been using and chose not to use, but come up with and try to create their own test, and this is under the director's authority, people number 45 put in place, and his administration put in place, but they chose to create a test, and the test was faulty. Okay, that's not good decision making. That's not good decision making at all. Everybody knows that when you're going to manufacture or create anything, you have to do your pilot testing. You have to have your phototype testing. And there's a period of time where you test the product out to actually see if it works before you try to rush it to market and then get it out there and it's faulty. That made absolutely no sense. And then to try to decide who would get tested, because you've seen a lot of athletes getting tested. You've seen some actors and actresses and family members being tested. 45 said he got tested, and some other people saying they are tested. And then you had nurses and doctors saying, well, we have no tests here yet. So what's up? Are you attempting to pick and choose who can get tested and who can't? Are you going to sit up and tell the United States of American people that it's got to be contingent upon a lottery, whether or not they can get tested for COVID-19? No. Let me get to the other video I had queued up in the background and then ran over into something else. People, I can't say it enough. Make sure you vote. People, I'm going to stress this. Make sure you are not playing Russian roulette with your immune system. You may be tired of hearing about COVID-19, but guess what? The death tolls in the United States of America has risen. Guess what? They keep rising. Guess what? All 50 states have confirmed cases of COVID-19 now. Guess what? It didn't start large in Italy and in Europe. And then it hit like that. Now, over there, the facts are over 50,000 people. Over 5,000. Let me not, over 5,000 people are dead. Let me not inflate the numbers. 5,000. Just like that. Gone. No fault of their own. African American people, we are not invincible. Church people, religious people, whoever, whatever, you're not invincible. Millennials, you're definitely not invincible. Don't compromise a good immune system doing www.howdumbcanyoube things. Like you going out, no mask on, no gloves on, no type of veneer on your head. If you have to travel, use your gloves, use the sanitizer, have your mask. And by the way, all masks are not created equal. At the onset of this, I said get an N95 mask because that's the respiratory mask that protects you against COVID-19. All masks are not created equal. All masks will not protect you against this virus, unfortunately. But to me, having a mask as opposed to having no mask is better than having nothing. So we know they botched it up on testing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about prevention. I'm queuing up that video in the background. I had to go back to my videos again, even though they're all in a row. Let them cycle through. I need to come on. Oh, come on, AT&T. Don't act new. Okay. Go back and show this. And then I'm going to show how what China did to get COVID-19, get a handle on it and get it under control in their nation. And I hear you know, a lot of this administration coming out and saying, well, we're not set up to do what they did over there. We don't necessarily have to do what they did over there, and saying other things. But if there's a solution that worked, why would you sit up and recreate the wheel or reinvent the wheel when it's been tested, tried, and proven, and it works? Why would you not at least have that as your foundation? Why would you not at least foundationally do or take some of the steps that they have taken to get COVID-19 under control? Why would you sit up and recreate a wheel and try to be that obstinate, that stubborn, that stupid, that foolish, and not follow a set pattern that works? Reinvent or recreate the wheel. Why? At least use those steps and build on that foundation. See, stupid stuff. An N95 mask is the mask that protects against COVID-19. We discussed that a few weeks ago on this channel. Type of mask needed. That's the mask that protects against the virus, but having a mask is better than having no mask at all. I don't care if you have to double or triple those masks that you have up and add a little more to it. Do what you need to do to protect yourself and not play Russian roulette with your health and your kids' health.
And for your second question, what kind of lessons or what kind of experience we can share? That there are so many things, but however, I should say that the most important thing, when we are talking about, when we are combating the infectious diseases such as the COVID-19, is to prevent and to control the disease rather than treatment. So treatment is only secondary. You learn from what you said. Last time I remember that talking about plan, you must have plan. And actually, failure to prepare is preparedness for failure. So even now in Wuhan, in Hubei, we have fewer and fewer newly diagnosed cases. And we should remain alert. And we should prepare for the future sporadic cases and future imported cases, and to learn from our own experiences, from our own success and
So there
failures.
you have it. Let me stop. Let me do a blackboard share real quick, or a whiteboard share real quick. Sorry for the clicking in the background. Prevent. Okay, prevention. He said that. We haven't prevented anything over here in the United States of America because this administration set up, played around, made fun of it, said it was a hoax. It was confirmed to be a virus in 2019. That's why it's called COVID-19. They knew about it in 2019. So we had the opportunity to get prepared, but because you have poor leadership coming from this administration, who set up and wanted to make everything cynical and always attempts to be extremely facetious, you have casualties over here in the United States of America. That means people are dead, and then the numbers continue to rise. And you have states that are on complete lockdown. We have yet for bills to really target and troubleshoot helping those families to be passed, because you have a Senate made up of controlled by the Republicans. And I'm gonna put the weight where it is, because I believe in being independent, who are sitting up playing at this point Russian roulette with the lives and finances of the American people. And that's going to take me back to this point. Make sure you vote. Okay, prevention. We missed that. That means eliminate it from even happening. We missed that. Now we're into testing and control, attempting to get it under control. He said, prepared. Being prepared. All right. A failure to prepare. US, failure to prepare. Didn't prevent anything. We still don't have this under control. We're not ready. And for the doctors or any health professional who sit there and tell people, stop going to purchase masks, stop doing this, save it for the people who need it. Excuse me. How dare you sit there and tell people when we're in a pandemic not to go get the resources they need and to sit up and wait? How dare you? There needs to be more sensitivity training. I'll say it again, and I'm gonna put my weight on this. For every health professional who has come out and said, stop purchasing resources, mask or gloves, because we need to save it for the people who have it. Excuse me, we don't know who all have what. And it could be someone at home with it and they got their resources in advance. Stop telling people to stop purchasing things to prevent COVID-19. That makes absolutely no sense. And that goes back to not being prepared. You don't sit up and tell people, stop getting it. We need to save it for this group. excuse me, you better press your president in this administration on getting you the resources you need, because everybody else is going to do what they need to do to keep their immune system built up and get the resources they need to protect themselves and their families, and rightly so. Now, let's leave how dumb can you be behind in 2020, and that goes for every doctor who have sit up there and said that. Now, I need you doctors to get off of stuck on stupid and do what you need to do and press the Center of Disease Control and press your president and that administration, your Congress people, your senators. So you can come out here and protect and be the advocate for everyone's health, and not just those who have confirmed cases, because we won't know who have what until everybody's tested, right? Now, I had to deviate to that because that makes no sense to me. I'm not going to not get resources because other people need to have, hold on, we don't know who has what. You're not going to tell me not to get prepared. That makes absolutely no sense when you should be pressing this government to be better prepared. That makes no sense. Absolutely none. And that goes to prepared, being prepared, failure to prepare, a failure to prepare, preparedness. We in all those categories. We didn't prevent nothing. No. Do we have testing under control? No, because we still, even though they came out and said, oh, this amount of many tests going to be available for this, but this amount of many tests, we have 1 million tests available. Have I seen 1 million tests available? No. Okay, just like that right there for the health professionals. If a health professional roll by here and say, Kerensz Harris, we don't agree with you, I can care less. I can care less, because that information that you're telling people to not buy masks, some doctors are telling people not to buy masks and not to get gloves and to save it for others. That advice right there, it ain't worth 2 dead flies. And the way I feel about that type of advice, you can kick rocks. That's the way I feel about that type of advice. It's asinine. Why is it asinine? Because we don't know who have what. So I would admonish those doctors and health professionals to defer themselves back to number 45 in this administration and the US government, and press them to get the supplies that they need to protect the patients that they have and to protect everybody else as well. Don't play. Don't play with it, because the US failed to get prepared, and they had the opportunity to get prepared because you knew about it in 2019. Don't come out here and play a game with people's lives. That's playing a game of Russian roulette with everybody's life. Stop it. Stop giving that advice out. Stop it. Now, to the rest of the people, if you can get you an N95 mask, as we discussed weeks ago on this channel, get them. If you get your gloves, get them. You can get any type of mask, get it. You can get little suits and hats, protective suits and hat, and foot paraphernalia, get it. Vitamin C, fair flu, whatever you need, get the resources you need. Do not let people who are supposed to be in authority making good decisions on behalf of US citizens sit up and play a game of Russian roulette with your life and your immune system. Don't let them do it. Now, I'm gonna go to how quick this COVID-19 can matriculate through someone's system based off of information from China and Chinese doctors, because they help get theirs under control. What is China, 1 billion plus people? What are we, 330 million people roughly? So 1 billion people plus over there. We only got 330 million people that we need to take care of over here, plus. And what? You would not want to take counsel from them and follow steps that they have taken? That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. Let's go. Let's go. But to you health professionals who've been saying that, and I've been hearing quite a few, you're out of order. You're way out of order. You've been out of order. When you opened up your mouth and told people not to get the resources they need and to save it for somebody else, you were out of order then. When you didn't press this president like you should have in 2019, because it's called COVID 2019. We knew about this in 2019. You knew about this in 2019. You were out of order then. And don't sit up and tell nobody else not to get their stuff together, because it's obvious that some of you all who are in the field just don't give a darn. Now, having said that, excuse the sad little music in the background coming from the video, but we're going to take a look at what the Chinese government did. And like I said, it's a communist country, so quite naturally they was going to start shutting stuff down and saying, hey, we can't go off the street, can't go off the block, we got to move. You know, we have got to try to get this under control. And so for that, they deserve a plus. For that, they deserve a plus. I do not agree with communistic nations and everybody being censored and things like that. However, I do agree with them protecting and moving swiftly to get diseases under control when is this impactful, when is this severe, and when you don't know what the outcome could be months ahead, and you don't want it continuously claiming lives of your citizens. Now let me play this video. But to you doctors, and I'm gonna say it again, you out of order for that. To number 45, you've been out of order. And every time you move your lips, you're lying. Right along with your administration who's sitting out there trying to pancake you and affirm you in the foolishness. I'm not. But you doctors and the rest of the people, out of order. Kudos to the #1 infectious disease doctor in the world over here for saying, no, we failed. Call it what it is. Admit it and quit it and get ready. Here we go.
Wuhan, February 7th. On receiving the test results, Han knows it's time to say goodbye to his father. They are both infected with the novel coronavirus. His father, who is in severe condition, is sent to the designated Tongji Hospital. Han goes to a temporary hospital, which has nearly 1,500 beds. Temporary hospitals, transformed from the city's venues, are the key to containing the spread of the virus. They house over 13,000 beds exclusively for patients with mild symptoms. Han, with mild symptoms, was well cared for in the temporary hospital. Medical staff even danced with the patients to help ease anxiety. The video later became a hit on social media. By February 18th, nearly 5,000 people in Wuhan had recovered. Wuhan's best hospitals were designated to treat patients like Han's father. By February 20th, there were 48 such hospitals, hardly enough to accommodate the 10,000 seriously ill patients. A total of 42,000 medical personnel came to Hubei to fight the epidemic. Experts and medical teams from outside Hubei took over some of the ICU wards. Ventilators and ECMOs were transported from across China. Doctors risked their lives to incubate the critically ill. Incubation must be fast, said doctors at Tongji's hospital ICU, where Han's father was treated, because patients' conditions could quickly deteriorate. A rule at the hospital: close monitoring and 24-hour care. More and more treatment plans, including respiratory support and plasma therapy, are put into action. Traditional Chinese medicine helped many of them alleviate symptoms and shorten the duration of overall treatment. As of February 24th, patients had recovered in Wuhan. 3 days later, the number topped 15,000. After another 5 days, it neared 25,000. The recovered patients include a 100-year-old man and a 17-day-old baby. Han and his father are now in quarantine after recovery. Their reunion is in sight. However, some doctors couldn't make it to the spring. They are the true heroes fighting the coronavirus. Dr. Bruce Aylward, team leader of the China WHO Joint Mission on COVID-19, said, "Imagination and political courage. As the epidemic is spreading around the globe, only by cooperating with each other can we defeat the common enemy, COVID-19.
So, TR, I understand you said, during, let me pause that. Sorry for the loud clicks in the background. Okay, TR, you said part of your childhood was in wartime. You just don't want your child to go through some rough time during her growth. And I can't blame you for that. And at the same time, while children are going through this, they can know future references on how to be prepared and how to be ready, because some have not been through a national crisis or a medical pandemic. So when they get older, they will know how to prepare themselves and their households, as opposed to being lost and thrown into pandemonia. They'll be better prepared. You can take them back through history and stress the importance of being prepared for them. But over here in the US, schools are shut down. K through 12 is closed. Before K through 12 even closed, many of the universities went to online platform. In spite of what this one who they deem to be the president over here has been doing, which is nothing. And in spite of the doctors who have so cavalierly and nonchalantly come out under the pretenses of caring for people and attempting to tell people not to get the resources they need and to save them for somebody else who may have the virus when they don't know who has the virus. The person they're telling, you don't tell people not to be prepared because this group have it when you don't know if that group has it or not. That makes no sense. What you do is you push your government officials, your president, you put the weight on them where it belongs, because they took an oath of office to uphold the U.S. Constitution and to serve the American people, protect and serve the citizens over here in the United States of America. You put the weight and the pressure right back where it belongs and not deflect off to innocent citizens, telling them not to get resources. That's out of order. And if you medical doctors come by here and see that, stop it. Stop it. That's foolishness. You should know better than that. Now, people are going to say, what does Naomi Campbell have to do with anything? And I'm going to bring this video up because I have watched her and followed her since my youth as the one that I deem the queen of the runway, Naomi Campbell. Not just watching her because she was a model who I admired, who was rich in melatonin, but also watching her business-wise, just the different challenges she went through, but also watching her because she would be traveling from all these different countries, from country to country, and travel all the time, and trying to figure out why she didn't get sick. Well, years ago, and it's been over 17 plus years, she always have her gloves, she have her mask, she always have her wipes, she always has her throw to go over the chairs inside the airplane. She always have had her bleach cloth wipes to wipe everything down. She's been doing this for years. Now let's see how she does what she do. And if should you have to travel, this is the way you should be traveling if you have to get on an airplane. She's been doing this for years. Now people thought her to be kind of crazy years ago, but now hindsight 2020, fast forward to where we are today in a pandemic. And you see why she did what she did. Like she said, she had to protect her own immune system. She has to protect her body. Out here playing Russian roulette with her life, and she has to be in different countries. And we can take a clue from this. Now, and at the time that she did this, I don't know that they still have those jumpsuits on Amazon. I didn't check them lately. But she did this with Ebola too. She did, anytime there's ever any type of virus or major respiratory infection or anything going on, this is the way she rolls. This is the way she's been rolling for the last 17 plus years. And you have doctors out here telling people, oh, leave the gloves in the stove for everybody else. Leave the N95 mask in the stove for everybody else. Leave the mask for everybody else. Leave everything for everybody else. No. Some doctors. No. That don't make sense.
I was born traveling. That's what my mother says. I love being in the air. I love being everywhere, but yet nowhere at the same time. Another airport. Of course I check out people's bags. I check out everything. Thank you, Miguel. This is Miguel, he's back.
Hello.
We're on our way to Doha, Hector. We have a refuge. That's so funny. I mean, I really should not. You know what? I'm getting it. I don't care. I'm getting it. I'm getting this, and I don't care. You do this part. Let me do a What's my favorite thing to do? Beauty! There's a color that I love that they start making. It's very sad. That's my cream that I use. I use only that cream. I mix it with my oils and stuff. Really hectic, but it's quiet.
Look at this breakdown.
Everything for hydration. When I get on a plane, so it's hydration, face mask. Then I'm actually looking for my gloves, which is the best part of the whole thing.
Clorox wipes, check. Wiping everything down, check.
Clean everything you touch. That you have to, everything. This is what I do on every plane I get on. I do not care what people think of me. It's my health. And
that is her health. Just like our health.
My sequence while you got them here. I'm fine. I don't do them for you, but I'll share it with you. Thank you. You're welcome. This is my seat cover. I change them every week. I just buy them in the airport. They always hand washed every hotel I go to, and I switch out. Different colors that make you happy, turquoise, whatever. So now I'm on to the pink for a minute. Okay? Then I've got this stuff I do. Mask, hydration. And then I will eventually end up sitting like this. The whole entire flight. No matter what plane you take, private or commercial, as the plane descends, people start coughing and sneezing. And the coughing and sneezing makes me, I just can't. So this is my protection from people coughing and sneezing. I mean, as much as I travel, I should get sick so much more with colds and stuff, and I'm blessed that I don't. And I really think that this helps me, my little routine.
It does help. Now, let me see. I want to show you how she is rolling for, and we're going to get to the stock market and all the percentage drops on the stock market, because the U.S. economy is being impacted and other nations' economies are being impacted as well, but we are here in the United States of America. She's been doing that for over 17 plus years. That's the way she rolls. You see that that breakdown on cleaning? And before all the social media platforms popped up, and a lot of old interviews on regular TV, you can see her doing the same thing. And people years ago thought she's kind of crazy or kind of chondriac for doing that every time. But she has to go in and out all these different countries, and her immune system is number one with her, and she makes sure it does not get compromised. Our immune system at this point needs to be number one with us. We can't count on this government or even some of these doctors over here to have ounce of compassion, care, or concern when it comes to protecting you and your health as well as your family. Let me pull the other one up. I thought I had it saved. Now, this will be Naomi traveling the way she travels when there was the Ebola, like the way she really gets down now that COVID-19 virus is, and she has to go from one country to the next. Now you get to see her with her hair wrapped up, suit on, safety glasses on, gloves on, and mask. And you will also hear her, the TCT, turn around and do a little rebuke and correcting for the workers who work there and say, listen, you're handling all these people passport and you're touching all these people license. You don't even have gloves on. You don't even have gloves or a mask on. In the United States, there's been some confirmed cases from people from the TSA having COVID-19. Now, I hope today, at this point, where really nobody's traveling like that, if someone has to travel at this point, I hope the workers would take it upon themselves under their own initiative, get your gloves, get your mask, and get your safety glasses too. Now, excuse me for the loud clicks in the background. These are precautionary measures and steps that should you have to travel, this is the type of way you want to travel. You want to be this should be the one. I gotta wait till this commercial pass. I sometimes when I pull it back. Okay, let me show this video and then we'll move on to the stock market. People, you can be tired of hearing about COVID-19, fine and dandy. At the same time, COVID-19 versus your immune system. Have you been tested? You can think you don't have it and have it. We saw the way Wuhan, China handled theirs, starting off with 13,000 hospital beds for mild cases of COVID-19, separating the severity of the cases out by location, okay? Based on whether or not it was a mild case or a severe case. Okay, if it's a severe case, they got moved to a totally different hospitals. Mild case, they were in the area. The way that they broke that down, agilely, the breakdown of that, agile, so they can troubleshoot within those different hospitals. That's wisdom. That was wisdom right there. That breakdown, that's wisdom. That's smart. There's some wisdom in that. As opposed to not breaking down and troubleshooting it to the degree that you should. The doctors over here said we're not prepared like that. But all you have to do is look at the model. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just build off a model that's already there. Don't think you're so smart when you got people dying all the time or dying from this. Don't think you're so smart, you know it all, and be so obstinate to the point where you can't really take the health and the lives of other people important like you should. You took an oath of office to do so. Don't be so cynical and smug and arrogant and think that you can't get help or go off another nation's model when it works. That's foolishness. And I'm looking on this side because that's where my videos are. Sometimes I'll look this way because I'm having them over there, but the video is queued up in the background. Let me share it. I need people to realize how serious this is, and at the same time, people, I need you to vote. Vote absentee. Vote, vote, vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Because at this point, unfortunately, we're in a pandemic. And now you see that it very well could. And if poor leadership leaves with you and the ship is sinking, I'm getting off.
This is a really serious problem.
Coronavirus. Then shares tumbling.
We knew it was coming.
The total number of infections has also increased dramatically.
Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Hey, Flower, how you doing? Yeah, work from home.
What would you call these, Sophia?
Air seeds.
They're air seeds, and they're like acupuncture. We have them in for 5 days. They're good for hormones and balance.
Balance the heart, the mind, reset the nervous system.
We have to do what we have to do. So today, you came to meet me. I'm in LA. I'm flying back home to New York. As this is a very sensitive time in the world, I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm not nervous to take this flight, but I am. I've been doing my seat thing for like, I don't know, 15 to 17 years. It's not new. It was just the first time I showed it. This is all new for me, showing you my life. I was meant to fly yesterday. I didn't feel comfortable doing it, so I'm definitely going today. Something a friend said to me is, we cannot live in fear. And it's so true. So here we go.
Let
you
me
will
pause for a
accompany me
moment.
from
This has
LAX
absolutely nothing to do with
today.
COVID-19. This is
As I
another
get
reason why I've been
my
watching her since a
earpin
teenager.
sound.
Maybe a year or two older than me. Her skin is flawless. Flawless. This is the no makeup Naomi Campbell. Flawless. Okay, back to serious business. There's the suit.
No problem, Sophia.
It was $15. Roughly seen. I'm gonna pull that back because
They say not to touch surfaces, right?
She bought that suit off of Amazon, and around the time she bought it, it was roughly 15 something, probably totaling up to rounding up to about $16. But let me be quiet and let her speak.
The thing that for me is that's important that they say is not to touch surfaces, right? I will put this up after. Dramatic, but it's also important to cover your eyes. My good friend Linda Evangelista told me about the goggles. Oh, they're kind of nice. This is how I'm going. I feel comfortable like this with these gloves. But I put them on in the car, and then I put on this lovely Burberry cape. Hair in, nothing out. Just when I get there, I'll put it in. But this is it. This is my precaution. What do you think? In all honesty, this isn't like this.
She did that during Ebola too, in every major outbreak. This is the way she gets down.
The mask I started wearing in the 90s, and the cleaning of the seat I started doing about, I'd say, 17 years ago. But it's been a routine of mine for a very long time. I mean, back in the day, people used to really laugh at me and speak under their breath, like, what is that girl doing? She's ridiculous. Now I'm not ridiculous. They say no point in wearing masks, but I disagree. Because what if someone sneezes right in front of you when you're walking and you're walking behind them? Those come to you. You walk right into it. It's very difficult not to touch your face. It's something we all do. I was even thinking as I'm sitting here right now, you know, I hope that the lady or gentleman who looks at our passport for ID will also be wearing gloves, because for them to have to touch thousands of passports a day. It's also this is like this vitamin C. All right, let's go. For me, masks used to be number one, but now it's reversed. It's the gloves number one. You should be wearing gloves. You're handling people's passports. I don't understand why America's not telling you guys.
Nobody, yeah. And
But then do it for yourself. Do it for yourself and for your family. You don't want this. What are you doing, you guys, to protect yourself? She told me, our immune is very strong. I'm like, you don't wear gloves, nothing. She says, no, we're not allowed. Our immune is strong, we're used to it. I'm like, you're used to this. Okay. Made it back to New York all in one piece. That was a very surreal journey for me. I have to say, when I got on the plane, people moved away from me. There was a guy sitting in front of me, he moved to the right. There was a guy sitting behind me, he moved to the right. So everybody didn't want to be around me, but that's cool. I didn't want to be around them either. But in all seriousness, I think we must take every precaution that makes us protective and comfortable. I, who travel constantly, I'm definitely going to be keeping traveling to a minimum.
There it is. If you have to travel, and to me, it's absolutely asinine to be sitting at the airport knowing you're touching hundreds of thousands of people, passport and information and luggage, and you don't have no gloves on. They telling you not to wear no gloves. I guarantee you, I would have rolled up in there with some gloves, and you don't even have a mask on. No goggles to protect yourself either. And what's interesting is the first 7 years out of high school and into college, I worked for a medical manufacturing company, and we made hospital beds, testing kits, urological bags, and everything you can think of. We made medical supplies. It was here in the United States at that time. We made all of those things, and I worked in an area called the clean room. Excuse me. We had to have smocks on our head, glasses on, gloves on, and she's in a plastic type. Ours was cloth, 100% cotton, well as the protective covering for our shoes. Now, if you left outside of what was called the clean room, wearing your gloves or your smock, you had to throw it out or put it in there to be sanitized and get a new one. We could not enter outside of the clean room. We were not supposed to enter outside of the clean room wearing any of those things. We were to take them off. You're always going to get a new cap. You're always going to get some different gloves. And usually it's some different smocks to put on your feet. But if you walked outside with the cloth robe or garment on, had to throw it into the bin to get clean. You could not go back into the area that I worked in with that on. So we made medical supplies and then we sent them off to be sterilized, and then they came back and then they got shipped to the different medical facilities, but not coming directly out of high school, because first 2 years in the college, I was not working anywhere. It was more like the second, definitely by the second to the third year in college. I worked full-fledged job at a medical manufacturing company, and we had to take every measure, because we were working with store products, to be extremely clean and sanitary. So kudos to Naomi, who travels the world a lot, for being very cautious and handling her immune system and not playing Russian roulette with her life or risking the lives of people that she come in contact with. We have to become proactive and not be so reactive when it comes to our own health and life. And that goes back to this callous president and his administration, as well as some doctors who have dared to utter, leave resources alone so somebody else can get them. That's crazy. Oh, you don't need that protection. Leave it so the people we know who got it can be protected. No. Why don't you go press that president to do his job with the administration, with the Congress, with the senators? Press them to do their jobs. This is where trade matters, because US did stop manufacturing so many resources and supplies, did all the outsourcing. Now, this is where global relationships matter. International relationships and trade matters. This is where it matters now, because if you go outsource everything and you can't even get to the ventilators you need because you're not producing or creating them in your nation like you should anymore, well, now guess what? You're at the mercies of another country. This is where wisdom matters. This is where decorum matters. But no, we got this one in there. We need to go back to the 10 man or the creator and get a heart and a brain, along with the rest of the people sitting up there condoning this foolishness. Okay, bye, TR. Thanks for stopping through and letting us know what's going on in Europe. Let's get to the stock market. Oh, sorry for slamming this down. Let me place this down. Let me place it down right here. And so you hear my phone in the background always hitting the board right here. I need to be a little bit more ginger in that. Let's get to this stock market though. And you see in the title, and I have to show instances where people are not playing Russian roulette with their immune system. And you may be tired of hearing about COVID-19, but you have to be out. And if you have to be out, you need to make sure that you have your gloves, your mask, everything that you need to have on to protect yourself, as opposed to being a day late, a dollar short, and sorry, and ended up in somebody's hospital with COVID-19. And like I said, at this point, we don't know who have what, because everyone has not been tested. We saw them play games with the test from the Center of Disease Control Department director, who had to be pressed by the House of Representatives last week and forced to say everybody can test and quarantine for free, and forced to make a decision based on their guidelines that day, which they should have done weeks ago. Okay, let me get to this share. This is Yahoo News. This is the stock market. This is what's going on in the economy. Once again, the Fed's cut interest rates to 0%. Some people are taking advantage of the stock market. We all know it's elementary. Buy low, sell high. If you are invested in the stock market, buy low, sell high. Get somebody who knows what they are doing that are licensed to move your stock, or you can get on one of those credible sites and move your own little stock and start investing yourself. And if you do have a stockbroker or investor, someone who's licensed to invest, at this point, I would have hoped you told them to freeze before the stock market start declining by 10%. Freeze your investments across the board, to just freeze them. So you're not losing any money, you're not making any money. Just freeze what you have. Freeze it. Hold it. And then maybe you can purchase something else. But I watched this administration come out here and play up companies like Walmart and other companies like that too, and talk about, oh, when they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. You put money in their pocket. You still allow big corporations to profit off of the sufferings, unfortunately, of other people, instead of saying, hey, I need you to set up some sites and to move some products for free. I need you to take a hit for free. I'm gonna need you to at least once a week or twice a week to do some freebies from your store. That's what I'm gonna need you to do. I'm gonna need you to do some free days. I'm gonna need you to incur some of financial loss that you can write off, by the way, so you really get to get it back by taking it as a loss at the end of the year. But right now we're in a pandemic, and I need you to give away some resources to the American people. That's the type of thinking I would want presidents to do in a pandemic. I need you corporations to, start giving away some resources to the American people, helping me help them sustain themselves and sustain us in their health as a nation. I'm gonna need y'all to do some free days. And then you're gonna write it off at the end of the year anyway. So yeah, I would be a little bit aggressive in that regards, instead of coming out and saying, oh, well, they could still probably. No, you wouldn't. Cap straight across the board prices. That should be passed until this is over. I would have capped that long time ago. Let me see your price gouging and watch what I do for you. I'm gonna hit you with every fine I can think of, plus some, and then take you to court as a corporation and sue you until I am so happy, satisfied. That's the way you play ball with them. So they're not exploiting the American people, and people thinking, oh, it's great business. They're just profiting off everybody. That's smart business. That's greedy business. That's exploiting business. That's exploiting people business. That's the exploitation of people. It's not good business. That's exploiting people. That's fleecing Americans. Okay. My perspective, I said it. Let's get to the stock market. I already know what I would be doing to a degree, somewhat, where I would be at in an epidemic or any type of crisis mode. I'm gonna need price gouging. I need your help. I need you to help the American people like they've helped you by being a customer for years. Now I need you to get back for real. That's where I would be going with them. Not sitting up there patty caking the foolishness that they're doing. Here we go. Let me move this up so we can play. All right, here we go. Play.
The Treasury market over the past few days.
All right, Brian, thanks so much. And now the next regularly scheduled Fed meeting will be
The pan-European stock 600 index is down by more than 8%, reflecting broad declines across the continent. It's also a lot sharper than what we saw in Asia. Shares in mainland China and Hong Kong were down around 3% and 4% respectively, and the Nikkei in Japan was down only around 2.5%. What we're seeing now is a continent in Europe moving into shutdown. We're either coming close to full shutdowns and seeing things like border closures in countries like Spain, France, and Belgium, or like here in Ireland, where I am, where bars have been ordered to shut down until the end of the month, just 2 days before St. Patrick's Day. Stocks in France are down by more than 10%, and we're seeing similar losses in London and Frankfurt. The turmoil, of course, has also hit the bond market. We saw Italian 10-year bond yields creep up above 2% in the past hour. And of course, spreads between German and Italian bonds are a controversial thing at the moment. And then in the past hour, we've also got news from French antitrust authorities who have fined Apple €1.1 billion for what it deems to be anti-competitive behavior. The French competition authorities said the iPhone maker was guilty of cartels within its distribution network, and then also of abusing the economic dependence of its independent resellers. The competition authority also then issued tens of millions in fines to 2 of Apple's wholesalers. They were fined for agreeing on prices.
All right, Edmund Heafy, thank you. Let's get a check on the pulse of Wall Street with Inez Ferre down on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Inez, real quickly, I am seeing an indication on the SPY, the Spider S&P 500 ETF, indicating close to down 10%. Now, obviously, this ETF is not subjected to the same limit down rules as the broad indices, so it's shaping up to be another very tough start for the open of a trade.
A very tough start. That's right, Brian. And traders here are going to be watching the S&P when we open. If it falls to 7%, that's when a circuit breaker would take place. That would be a 15-minute pause market-wide on trading. Remember, we saw the same story last Thursday and also last Monday. If we did have a circuit breaker today, it would be the third one in 6 trading sessions. Also, they're also watching to see that second level circuit breaker to see if we would reach 13% down on the S&P 500. Regarding the Fed move yesterday, one trader telling me long term it's great, a huge bazooka, but right now there is so much panic that until we get through the height of the storm, so to speak, you can expect to see this volatility. One last note that I just want to make, before entering the floor of the stock exchange, temperature checks were taken on everybody entering here. First time I've ever gotten my temperature checked before coming into work, but I will tell you, these are unprecedented times. Brian, Alexis?
For sure, cannot overstate that enough. Inez Ferre, thanks so much. Now, states are taking strict measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. States are closing schools for various lengths of time. Restaurants and bars were told to close down in certain parts of the country. And the CDC is now recommending that there should not be gatherings of 50 people or more in one area. Taking a look at the effects of COVID-19, here are the latest numbers we have. There are 169,000 confirmed cases, just over 6,500 deaths, with 77,000 people who have recovered. And that is an important number to stress here. 77,000 people have recovered compared to 6,500 deaths. Joining us now is Yahoo Finance's health reporter, Anjali Khemlani. Anjali, can we expect more aggressive action from states to limit the spread of this virus? And we keep hearing about flattening the curve. What needs to be done that hasn't been done yet?
Thanks, Alexis. Yeah, so that is one of the things that we're definitely looking to see is throughout the day, we're probably going to hear a few more announcements of strict rules like this. Meanwhile, at the federal level, we know that the coronavirus task force is in fact working on these types of mitigation tactics and looking to really be very plain and explain exactly what is required of us. So we're also looking from the federal level to hear more about certain rules that we're going to have to follow. So waiting for that later today. Meanwhile, as we know, school school closures, business closures, everyone really looking to figure out how to mitigate this. Meanwhile, there are still concerns over how the small businesses are going to really handle this. So also looking towards that bill that was passed by the House to grant some sort of relief for these companies, and that should be in the Senate this week.
And Anjali, in the debate last night, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders both suggested or said that the military should be deployed to help to fight the coronavirus. How likely is that? How likely will that be the next step?
Well, we don't know what they're discussing at this point, right? We know that the repeated phrase is all options are on the table. Whether that means a national level quarantine or not remains to be seen. That's also one of the other things we're waiting to hear out of that task force and those briefings is what the president is going to implement in terms of strategy. So it could be on the table.
All right, Anjali Kamlani, thank you. Let's take a deeper dive on stocks with Jared Blickery, who is manning the Wi-Fi Interactive Board. Jared, that is a stunning move in the SPY, but stunning moves also across the globe.
Yeah, we got stunning moves everywhere you look. It started in Asia, even in Tokyo. We saw the Bank of Japan easing. The Nikkei was up about 5 or 6%, ended down 2, Hang Seng down 4. But you go into Europe, we have the DAX down 9%, the CAC 40 down 10%. Just take a quick look at this. This is out over the last 5 days, and we can see that it's down 21% here. And then in London, the FTSE is down 7.5%, and the futures in the U.S. are lock limit down. But we did see the SPY trading close to 10% down. There is no limit on that. Now, here is our heat map. The green is from the Friday close, but we can see the overnight quotes. Apple was up 12% Friday, down 14% in the pre-market. Microsoft down 12, Amazon down 8.5, Alphabet 9. It goes on and on here. But let's take a look at the commodities, see how those are shaping up. As you would expect, crude oil under pressure, now trading below $30 a barrel, down 8.5%. We can also take a look at, for instance, heating oil gold futures. There we go. The gold market has been under pressure as well, so that is down 3.5%. We'll look at some longer term charts here. Let's take a look at a 20-day so we can see the price action. People have been selling off gold to meet margin calls. Looks like they've been doing the same thing for Bitcoin, which got smashed last week. But we can see it's down to 1462, had actually close to closing, been close to closing over 1700 just a couple weeks ago. But we can see this precipitous decline last week continuing into this week. And we can also take a look at silver futures. Those are getting hit more. That is down 13%. And we can also take a look at copper futures. Those have finally broken down decisively. We were looking at this 2.5% support level. Looked like this might be a fake breakdown here, but in fact, we see that it has finally succumbed to the downside. So Dr. Copper pricing in some real havoc here. And then we can take a look at some of the other markets. For instance, bonds, 10-year T-note yield is under pressure again today. That is down 16 basis points. And we'll just take a little bit of a longer term look here because this is an incredible move here to the downside. We've seen a lot of bond volatility. We did see this rise last week. It looks like we might have been getting some relief, but in fact, we are now trading to the downside. Bonds getting a real boost here with the yields correspondingly down.
All right, Jared Blickery, thanks so much for the roundup. I want to break down the markets more now with Liz Ann Saunders, Chief Investment Strategist at Charles Schwab. She joins us on the phone, and Matt Malley, Chief Market Strategist at Miller Tabak, joining us via Skype. Thank you both for making time for us this morning. Liz Ann, I'm going to start with you. We saw bold, aggressive action from the Federal Reserve yesterday, cutting interest rates outside of a regular meeting by 100 basis points and also implementing other things to try to push liquidity into this market. Why wasn't that enough? Are investors seeing that as a sign of desperation on the part of the Fed?
Oh, I'm not so sure. Yes, it is desperation, but I think it's justified desperation. And I think it's the fact that the Fed and what it can do to attempt to stabilize financial markets and provide liquidity, especially to the funding markets, is just the first step. You know, the second step, which probably will involve the Fed in terms of providing liquidity to commercial banks, will be done in conjunction with what the government does. And we're only scratching the surface now on what needs to be done from a fiscal policy perspective. And I think the fact that we are starting to realize that our trajectory as it relates to what's going on in Europe could look something more akin to what happened in Wuhan versus the much more benign scenario that people were hoping for not too long ago.
Matt, as someone in this market, involved in this market, just fixated on this market, are you worried, or how worried are you that the Fed essentially is out of bullets now?
They can make money over here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that they're out of bullets, but what we need is also on top of what they're doing and what they can do further in the commercial paper market and areas like that is also the fiscal situation. I mean, the fact that senators went home this weekend didn't help the situation,
No,
because
it did not.
I mean, people are worried
Senators
about.
took their
I mean, they all
behinds
know,
home.
geez, the Fed can't fix the coronavirus. We've all heard people say that for the last couple of weeks, and it's absolutely true. So what do they see? Well, geez, if I'm going to lose my job, maybe I got to sell some stocks just to put, pay my mortgage and put food on the table. If they feel like they're going to get some sort of support from the government in fiscal measures, whether it be some sort of unemployment benefits, because, or of course the payroll tax that we're talking about, something that will hold them over if we really get the worst kind of situation, that should give the markets a little more confidence. I mean, the one thing I am seeing now, though, is that we are seeing some panic. We saw some capitulation last week in the marketplace where the internals really became extreme. Today, we're seeing a bit of a panic move. So I just think I want to say people who are thinking about shorting the market down here need to be very, very careful, because when the Fed uses a bazooka and the fiscal stimulus could be coming, even the worst bear markets in the world have very, very strong, sharp snapback rallies.
Liz Ann, do you think that perhaps we are already in a recession? I mean, oftentimes we don't know we're in one until we're sort of on the other side of it. Do you think we're already there?
Yeah, probably, because keep in mind that when the National Bureau of Economic Research, the NBER, ultimately dates recessions, which to your point tends to be well after they have begun, and there's actually even a circumstance or two where they haven't dated the start of the recession until it was already over. But what they do is when they date the start, they go back to the peak in activity. They don't started at the point they declare that we're in one. So assuming we're going into a recession, which I think is a pretty decent likelihood here, I think it's not a stretch to say that the peak in activity is already behind us.
Matt, do you think we are already in a recession? Secondarily, what do you think the market has priced in here? Garden variety recession or a full-on demand shock? Or let's say demand GDP falls by 3%.
About us being in a recession, because we called this last year.
For 2 quarters.
Well, I agree with Liz Ann. I think that the likelihood that we're already in one is based on those weird definitions. We're probably there. If not, we're certainly looks like we're going to move into one. And whether we're pricing it or not, right now we're pricing in kind of a garden variety recession, the panic notwithstanding. And the one thing that, of course, the most important thing is not to say what's going on with the stock market and the coronavirus. Everybody's saying, how fast are we going to bounce back from this thing when it does pass, or at least when it becomes a contained. That's one thing. But the problem is if it does enough damage between now and then to really hurt the credit markets, then suddenly we got a much deeper recession and a more prolonged one because you do get a mini credit crisis. And I'm not calling for a repeat of what we saw a decade ago, but if this situation does stay down or does deteriorate to the point where it is worse than a lot of people think, the problems in the credit market are going to exacerbate the whole situation and make it a longer one.
Liz Ann, I may be putting the cart before the horse here, but if and when we do get out of this, because we will pull out of this, do you see it looking like a V-shaped recovery? Is it a W-shaped recovery? What will a recovery in this market look like when it starts to take hold?
It's pretty rare from a stock market perspective to get a true V-shaped recovery. We saw that coming off the lows in December 2018. I think there was some hope by some investors that Friday looked like that similar rebound. Obviously, that's not the case. Usually bottoms are processes over time, and I'd be inclined to think this one will eventually be more of a process over time. There's also the discussion of whether we're likely to see a V-shaped recovery in the economy. I think that's a stretch, at least not in the aggregate. There may be some industries that experience that, but keep in mind that what's been sort of lost in the recent analysis, especially with today and the weakness in the markets, is the implosion happening in certain segments of the credit markets too, specifically energy, given the OPEC price war and what's happening in the corporate bond market, particularly on the lower end, either of investment grade or in high yield. And I think a lot of that carnage will continue on even after the point where we start to see hopefully a stem in the virus infection. So there's another piece of this in terms of economic dislocations that suggests that for some industries, the likelihood of any kind of V bottom is quite limited.
All right, Liz Ann Saunders, Matt Malley, thank you for hopping on the line.
All right, we'll stop them right there. I will link all videos that we've watched in the description below once the video will get edited. I wanted to come on again today and just tell the millennials, number one, you are not invincible. Churchgoers or whatever religion, whether you Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, believer, whatever, that you're not invincible either. African American people, people rich in melatonin, Africans, Jamaicans, because the virus is over there in Jamaica too, and other islands. Tell people who are rich in melatonin that we are not invincible. We don't have a super invincible immune system to the point where we could not be exposed to this. So we need to do what we need to do to take every precautionary measure to keep our immune systems built up and healthy. And if you had a healthy immune system before then, good. But just know, if you're out doing what I call dumb things, you can put your own immune system in jeopardy. Do not play Russian roulette with your immune system or your family's immune system or life. So having said that, also to come back on and to warn people that this administration did not do what they could have done or should have done, or was not prepared like they should have been prepared in 2019 when we know about COVID-19. Really, before 2019, because the purpose of having a pandemic and the Center of Disease Controls in various offices and not cutting them like this administration did was to ward off or help alleviate situations like this when they do happen, or to handle them more swiftly and to have a certain state of preparedness. The administration came in like a hatchet, started cutting things out, started deregulating. You get what you get. When it comes to the stock market, I want to say this: we set up and watch Fed reserves cut interest rates 3 times last year, plus, and help out big corporations and lend them billions of dollars in repos. That's liquidity. Okay, we watched them do that last year, and we started calling it in. We said, hold on, we're on the precipice of a recession. We saw this in 2008. Feds jump in, start lending big businesses, and then they just happen to say, oh, well, it's stabilized. We avoided it in December. I said it was a little premature for them to say that. Let's roll over into another year and see how it's going. And we find and the United States finds itself in this situation, and me as a US citizen. Well, here we are. Don't patty cake and play with the people. Call it what it is. We're in recession. And you heard a lot of, the economists are saying, well, many times we don't know that we've been in recession too after it's passed. You know. Is everybody working? Is everyone working? Is everyone getting a working wage, living wage, and fair wage? With insurance. Has there been any job growth, creation, development, or expansion? How's your manufacturing looking? How are the business books really looking? How are they really faring? Well, last year we got to peer in some banks' books. They didn't even have the capital to run last year. So we set up and we watched. Don't play with people. Don't play with people. And usually the working class feels the recession first before everyone else feels it. You want to know if it's a recession over here in the United States of America, usually they base it off the African American family and how they've been faring for the last few years, and the other working class ethnic families. And then you can say, oh, look at the trends, and say, oh, we're in a recession. But no, for everyone who has attempted to fluff and puff this administration and this presidencies and these markets and attempt to manipulate or spin the raw data on the numbers of what's really going on over here, you're wrong. You were wrong. You were wrong and you were out of order. You don't tell people to get them in fear and pandemonium. You tell them so they can be prepared. You were wrong to the doctors. And I'm veering off of what we discussed over here. You're wrong. You were wrong. Some of these doctors is telling people not to get resources and buy the N95 mask, or just not to get any masks or gloves at all, and to stop going out and purchasing hand sanitizers and stuff like that. You're wrong. And you were out of order. You're wrong and you were out of order. Not every doctor, but some of the doctors I've been hearing say that, and some African American doctors, as well as other ethnic doctors, you're wrong for telling people that. You're out of order. You're wrong. You need to press the government to do their jobs like they're supposed to do. That's what they get paid to do off the taxpayers' back and dime. You're wrong for that. Completely out of order. You want to come down and try to press people not to get resources they need instead of pressing the government to do their job. You're wrong. You better put the blame back where it go, and put the weight and the heavy back where it go. Put the responsibility and accountability back to where it belongs, at the doorsteps of this president, of this number 45, the one they voted on to be their president over here in the United States, on the Congress, on the senators, who, by the way, went home. Put the responsibility and the accountability back to where it belongs. 40 Republicans voted no. Take it to their doorsteps. Put it back where it belongs. Senators, Republican senators, they going home. They could have voted remotely. Put the weight back where it belongs and stop playing with people. Over here, they made it a political game. Kayla. I guess nobody's gonna get the phone. So excuse me for the phone ringing in the background, because I don't have it in here. All the phones are somewhere else. Let's use our right and left side of brain and process information accurately through our amygdala, and make sure we're holding people accountable that should be held accountable. People have been protesting, and they don't get a pass. They don't get a pass for being a day late and a dollar short, and they should have been prepared. And this is called the greatest nation on the world, in the world. And then you get them coming out there saying it's a hoax, it's fake, but people did. Back to what we looked at. We looked at how Naomi Campbell has been taking care of her health for years, and the way she travels, and why her immune system, when she travels from these different countries, stay built up the way it is. But you see how she gets down. She's been doing it for a long time. People thought it was taboo of her to do that years ago, but you see why it's vital. And for those who already have compromised immune systems, if you have to make something out of 100% cotton yourself, do what you need to do to protect your immune system and not play Russian roulette with your immune system. Now, having said that, thank you, Kayla. Goodness. Thank you. I'm not trying to be funny, but I know I told you I was doing a live, and I asked you to get the house phone. Thank you so much. Okay, having said that, all 50 states has COVID-19, so we need not be deceived about that. And once again, no one is invincible. Let's use wisdom. Let's go off of facts over foolishness. And let's go out on some music, and everybody stay safe. continue to pray. But while you're praying, faith without works is dead. Add some works to that faith. Get your things together, have your stuff together, and just be up there praying. And then, like I said, the analogy earlier, you end up in heaven earlier. For those who believe in one, and you wondering how you got there so early, and you didn't prepare for COVID-19 at all. You just kept being callous with your immune system in your life. You took it as you didn't need to do this. You don't need to do that because you thought you were invincible. No, 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 don't play Russian roulette with your life. And let's leave How dumb can you be behind in 2020? And the reason, one of the reasons I started off saying eagle eyes on this year, 2020, was because eagles have an accurate depth of perception when it comes to seeing. They see the most accurate out of anybody else in the world. 2020 vision and beyond, their perception is 100% plus accurate. And they can see from afar off with 100% accuracy, precision. When their eyes close, they still see. Started off saying, let's roll into this year with 2020 vision. That's an accurate depth of perception to discern what's going on in the world. Discern accurately what's going on in your life. To be cognizant and conscious and govern ourselves as such. Let's make sure we keep that in mind as well. That being said, thank you all so much for streaming. I'm gonna give us some music and we're gonna log off, everybody. Let me take us back out on a high note and shock everybody endorphins and get them back happy. Here we go. Electric Kingdom, Twilight. 22. That's right. That being said, bye everybody.